Hey, Guoba here, with a pre-release discussion of Luocha. He arrives in just 4 days, so we're going to go through everything about him. I've done some preliminary calculations on him, and when he's live I will be sharing my sheets for you all. We'll be going through why you might want to pull him, with his 4 stars and Litecoin banner. Then we'll discuss what he does with his pros and cons. Then his probable best builds, as well as some possible synergies and team compositions. I will be doing a full guide on him, and a pre-release infographic should be in the pinned comment and description. There will also be a post-release infographic. First of all, if you're pulling for meta value, Luocha is a very capable healer with some incredible utility and some okay damage. If you want to see how he performs, you can always wait a day or two for someone to clickbait you into pulling him. If you just think he's hot, then pull away in 4 days time. I believe he can boost any account, even ones with Bailu and Japad, because of the multiple niches he can thrive in. Of course, if you don't have these two, his value is immense, but only pull for meta value if you care about pushing Memory of Chaos. Don't let FOMO get to you. His 4 stars are the following: Xing Shui, a strong sub DPS that can scale very well into a main DPS starting from E4. Her Eidolons are awesome to get. Pella, a potent debuffer that has some nice sub DPS damage and shares buff removal in her kit with the Watcher. She has defense shred and works great in many teams. She doesn't need Eidolons that badly though, with E4 being her best one, boosting mono ice. Yukong is an interesting and new 4-star harmony unit that will appear on his banner. I'll have a video on her tomorrow and a guide when she releases. She will boost allies attack percent, crit rate and crit damage, and have some great sub DPS damage. So his banner is the sub DPS squad, and all of these units will be useful one way or another. His 5-star Litecoin is nice but niche to him and not necessary. It will grant him attack percent, 4 heals, some help with energy so you can get more heals because you'll be substituting an energy rope with an attack rope probably, and a team-wide speed buff on ultimates. It's great on him but not necessary to pull whatsoever in my opinion. 4 stars on his banner are the following: Good Night Sleep Well, one of the best Nihility cones in the game and a crazy DPS boost to all units. It is pretty much the swordplay for Nihility. Dance Dance Dance, a strong harmony substitute whenever you don't need cogs or memories of the past. It will give advancement forward to the whole team every ultimate. Genius's Repose, a weak and conditional erudition Litecoin. You'd hope to pull the other two really. So Luocha is a 5-star imaginary abundance unit. Abundance characters are dedicated healers. For his basic attack, it's a standard basic attack, it will just deal damage. His skill is a single target powerful heal that will be automatically used without skill points off field whenever any member of your team drops below half health once every 2 turns. This skill, whether it's emergency or used, will cleanse 1 debuff from said ally. His ultimate is an AoE damaging ability and will remove 1 buff from all enemies, the first AoE buff removal in the game. His skill and ultimate will provide him with Abyss Flower stacks when his talent isn't activated. At 2 stacks, it will activate and he will deploy his talent's field. This field will give all allies healing whenever they attack an enemy at a smaller heal than the skill. The attacker will gain a large single target heal and all allies a smaller AoE heal. Since it's per enemy as well, more enemies hit means more healing. So his kit seems pretty strong, right? Let's go through all of his pros and cons. So first up, we have incredible healing. Again, I will share the sheets for the main guide, but my preliminary calculations show that his healing is more than satisfactory for a solo sustain unit. It is really hard to calculate how good healing actually is, but I tried my best with the help of Edison's Math Club and Sasuke. Next, we have easy build requirements. I will be discussing his main stats later in the video, but you only really need to level up his skill and talent. And he has great free-to-play Litecoin options, and the gacha ones don't need any superimpositions for him to perform very well. The damage difference between 0 investment, OK investment, and max traces is very negligible, so you don't need to level up basic or ultimate. If you want to do those crit Luocha memes, go ahead, but this shows that his build requirements are super easy. He also has amazing base stats and a low energy cost of 100, the base stats we can't show just yet. He is also one of the 3 only imaginary units in the game, allowing for more breaks versus those pesky imaginary weak enemies. Imaginary Break is pretty strong too for giving your team even more survivability. And finally, he has great skill point generation. His rotations don't need skills unless someone drops super low, so he can be very skill point positive and fit in nearly any team. For his cons, we have a lack of ultimate healing. Bailu and Natasha can heal up whenever with their ultimate for a very large amount. Luocha can heal with his ultimate if his field is up, but it won't be, because you never want to use his ultimate during his field uptime. This means that the only emergency heals you have is his once every 2 turn skill or any allied damaging ultimates during his field time. You can technically use his ultimate if you want the buff removal that bad, but it means his field uptime will be pretty bad the next rotation. So due to some downtime, you need to be tankier or safer with him as a solo sustain versus Bailu. Natasha would bring Fire MC or March regardless, so it's okay. He also has attack percent based healing, unlike the 2 others. This means that stacking your healing power means you won't be gaining HP stats. You can mitigate this by getting some defensive subsets though. Just don't spam Reddit posts about him always dying, like we already do with Ting Yun. Tank Yun is the real meta. Next, if you don't use his technique, then his ramp up time is quite annoying. You'll have 2 turns of downtime on his talent, so I recommend just using his technique. Then we have restrictive rotations. Whilst he can absolutely spam basic and perform well, if his talent goes down and your emergency skill is out of sync, you have to skill and you have to ultimate if you want that field back up. This means skills and ultimates are restricted to outside the talent uptime, and using them during the talent is a big no-no, ultimate especially. If it's really needed, then it's okay, but I don't recommend it. So there are his pros and cons, and if you have any other thoughts, let me know below. As for his best relics, it will be a toss-up between Musketeer and the healing set. You get the most benefits from going 2-piece healer and 2-piece Musketeer, as the healer set 4-piece is kind of whatever. For chest piece, you'd always want to go healing boost percent, and boots can be attack percent for stronger heals, or speed for more comfort and more skill point generation. For plain ornaments, you can go fleet for more tankiness for Luocha, as well as a team-wide attack boost that also benefits his heals, or space sailing station for a bunch more healing. I personally prefer fleet. For sphere, you'll go attack percent or a tank main stat if your healing is sufficient, and for rope, you will always want NG percent. There are some possible cases where you won't need it, in some post-op rotations or with his signature light cone sometimes, but they can use NG rope and it's just easier if you have it. For light cones, his signature 5-star is of course great for him, attack percent, energy, and a mini Asta ultimate. Quid pro quo as usual is excellent on any healer for free team energy. Post-op conversation will be needed for some rotations, or when you don't want to run an energy rope, but it can also use an energy rope. Perfect timing will be awesome on him, and you don't even need any superimpositions. At S1 it gives you such a great healing boost, and since you don't need to build that many stats, you can opt into the effect resistance, which means you get more healing and less debuff chance. You'll need about 8 substats no matter the superimposition to max its effects, and no, debuff resistance does not count for perfect timings calculation. Finally, multiplication is nice on him because he will be spamming basics. It means even without speed boots, he will still be zooming and producing skill points for the whole team. He will thrive with bruiser type characters. Clara and Blade come to mind. Every single time Clara takes a hit, she will dish out damage, no conditions needed. So every hit Clara takes, she heals herself back up and the whole team up. She doesn't even need her signature light cone anymore. And when she uses her ultimate, she'll be doing AoE damage. This means triple the healing if there are 3 enemies. Expect to see Clara and Luocha teams solo endgame content. Blade is excellent too with the same concept. He has charges he needs to accumulate, but he will also dish out large damage when taking enough hits. Furthermore, his HP sacrifices can trigger Luocha's emergency skill for free talent uptime and energy. It might be a bit counterintuitive though when your Ting Yun is at 1 HP just besides Blade. For team comps, he can slot pretty much anywhere. Only team so far I'd say he can't is in Arlen teams, as Arlen wants to stay low. He will provide a solo sustained role to any team, meaning you don't need a preservation unit unless the boss is really that strong. But since he's healing, that preservation doesn't need to be Japard, so you have some wiggle room. I believe Mono Imaginary will be excellent with Luocha. He's an imaginary healer and solo sustained, so all you need is a DPS and a support. Well, Welt and Yukong make exactly that. Welt can actually deal some crazy damage when optimized, and alongside Silverwolf and Yukong's buffs, he will obliterate enemies. Yukong's attack buffs will also be buffing Luocha, since it's dependent on ally turns, so any attacks that happen during Yukong's buffs will heal up the team even more. Anyway, that's all of my pre-release Luocha thoughts. If you have any comments on him, let me know below. Thanks for watching, have a Guoba day.